On the agenda tonight, we're going to be taking a look at Roy Clark, and he's going to be performing 12th Street Rag. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So, perfect timing with this one, because the last video we did was on Glenn Campbell, looking at some of his technique on the fretboard that was just at a totally different level, and I do reference Roy Clark in that video, so here is Roy. We haven't had a look at him in quite a while, but it's always great to get Roy up on screen to look at some of his technique. On the guitar tonight, I know that he was a multi-instrumentalist and just reached such a level at so many different instruments, but it's going to be guitar tonight. So we've got the guitar out, which is probably ill-advised, looking at Roy Clark playing, trying to point out anything that he's doing, but we will watch this the whole way through because it's just under 3 minutes in length. So let's see how Roy gets on.
He sings, he sounds, and he plays just about all the musical instruments. In short, he's a sensational one-man show. So let's put the lightning fingers of Roy Clark to work.
And there we have it. I mean, throughout that performance, I'm sure you just find yourself smiling, and I find myself smiling as well, but for two different reasons. I mean, first of all, just the entertainment factor and the way that Roy is so natural when he performs this, and he does the different facial expressions, and the first slide that he does on that low E string that has that comedy sound to it. We cut away from the fretboard, but that's great because it allows you to appreciate the final effect of the technique and the way that he's applied it so faultlessly to get that comedy sound. But, I mean, the other side of it that I'm smiling at is just the technique. The way that he gets this so clean, obviously really clean tone here, but all of the alternate picking. This isn't going to be an instructional video, by the way, but just to point out some of the things that's going on technique-wise with the left hand and the right hand and the control that Roy has, but also the way that he plays with his left hand, fingering some of these notes, but synchronizing it all with the right hand at the same time as putting on a show, which is at a totally different level when you start to then have the confidence to be able to do that it's all subconscious and you can start just entertaining the crowd while playing at this kind of level. So we'll jump back into it from the beginning of the performance and attempt to point out a few things. I've got the guitar, but I don't think it's going to help much. Let's get back into it. I mean, so we've got this alternate picking going all the time, and that's just going to be a theme throughout this whole performance. But the tempo of the alternate picking, I mean, that's the killer here, but keeping it synchronized with the left hand, that's the other part of it. It's got to be happening all at the same time, and Roy has absolutely got these hands synchronized. And, I mean, predominantly, we've got that run going on throughout this whole first section, but it's the speed, it's the synchronization of the that going on, and we work our way back up actually. So we've got quite a lot of muscle memory going on here that you have to just sit down and try and just repeat it. And interestingly, we have that little jump over to the B string like that instead of keeping it on the high E string. And that's probably just to do with that transition back into this little run. And it's going to be slightly easier, or Roy probably felt it was a little bit easier from the B string to then the high E string. The killer about this is the tempo and getting everything synchronized and attempting to get all of these notes happening at the same time, but with this alternate picking going the whole time. So, and that was a rough idea. I mean, that's a little bit messy, obviously not as clean as Roy's doing it, but we have got a super clean tone, so we're not hiding in distortion here. And this is the thing about these kinds of players, the country players that I referenced in that previous video, always on these super clean tones, so nowhere to hide technique wise. But it's all of this alternate picking, getting that all that kind of stuff going on. The other thing that we have are these slides. Actually, we have something like that, I think. Like I said, this isn't going to be an instructional video, but what I like as well is this technique where we have this slide. We might actually have another listen to that so that we can get down exactly what's going on. Oh, we had this oh, we had a little slide up there. So we go, and the thing about this performance is there's subtlety of technique everywhere, like this little slide when we go, and rather than staying there, we have a quick slide down like that. So as soon as you played that 12th fret on your B string, we're sliding down instantly. Roy's technique is so efficient. I mean, it happens so quickly. And that's literally it. So we have this, that's it. And then we'll be back into the, alternate picking. And it's that little slide that I was referring to earlier, where we've got this slide up to our, well, this is going to be the 8th fret high E string, 8th fret B string, but it's getting to that destination sliding all the way down. So this kind of, and making sure that you're ending the slides exactly where you want to. Another thing to point out, just the transitions between all of these phrases, because it's one thing to just separate certain parts and be able to play that, but then putting it all together, that's what you'd have to sit down and practice and just get each part down individually and then get used to transitioning from one part to the next. So then in the end, you have a full performance of all of these different techniques just added together. So you'd have to spend, a lot more time than we're doing here, just sitting down, picking out little bits. But let's continue. And these really subtle, these little hammer-ons and pull-offs, using that second finger, it's really subtle. It might be something like that. But then we have... and then it might, be a different version of the riff or that run the second time. We might even have a little bit of sweep picking in there as well. I mean, it's really subtle, but, picking out the notes from the chords, so arpeggiating the chords, so kind of like that. But when you sweep across the strings, you get those notes happening a lot faster, and it might be, going the other way, back up the way, but we'll actually take it back and have a listen. But I think it's really subtle, it's really quick. But again, it's just one of those things that it happens so quickly, but it's that sweep picking technique. And generally, I mean, Roy's playing it so fast that you don't really hear it, but when we watch it and when you do play guitar, you'll be able to recognize that shape and the technique that Roy's using. So yeah, again, I mean, this is just one of those performances where everything is blink and you'll miss it, but we'll let it play on a little bit more. Now that's the bit that obviously you'd like to see him play that on the guitar, but because we break away from the guitar, you get to appreciate just the sound of it. And this is something that I don't think anybody, or there won't be a lot of guitarists who have worked at this particular technique or getting this sound, because it only really has a place in this performance and with Roy Clark and the entertainment side of things. So, I mean, what's happening? Again, it's a technique that I haven't worked on, but we have this kind of, this slide up and down on the low E string, and it might be, let's see if we can find the note that he's actually hitting here. Yeah, so it is the G, but it's around this area. So when he's slide up and down, he's getting the perfect distance for either side of that G. And the thing about the technique and the accuracy that's required is that once you start being too erratic with it, like that, it doesn't sound like it should sound. So even that would take a lot of practice to perfect, and it's certainly not something that I've ever worked on. And I don't know if you play guitar at home and you have worked on this particular technique, but to get it to sound how Roy does is so much practice, but just perfecting this, to get that slide perfectly either side of the G, and to get it to this fast. This is the point. The faster you do this, the less accurate you will be and the worse it will sound. So that's why it's taken so much practice from Roy to do it so quickly, but he's doing it quickly but precisely. I mean, with such precision, basically everything in this performance. But let's listen on. Okay, more alternate picking here, and we've got this, again, semitones, but the interesting thing about Roy's technique here is that if I was playing this, I would keep that first finger planted on the 8th fret and kind of play it like that, whereas Roy, he's actually lifting up that first finger, which means that he's fretting this note every time he plays it, which for me, it feels really weird, muscle memory wise, actually leaving the fretboard kind of like that. Yeah. Yeah, it feels a little bit like the synchronization isn't quite there because I'm lifting my first finger off. But when Roy does it, you can tell actually when you're looking at his face that he's kind of looking up. This is all subconscious muscle memory, of course, but he is concentrating on this one section a little bit more, if you're looking at his face, a little bit more than he has been previously. So getting these notes, nice and clean and, lifting off. He's obviously just getting into that flow, concentrating, making sure that, actually, there's a few alternate picks there as well. And when we play through this, we've got this. What's the timing? There's more picks in there than you realise actually on that part. Oh, it just keeps it going the whole time. So we go like that. So there's no phrasing to it like I was doing earlier, just playing straight through those semitones. And then we've got this, again, same amount of picks there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 picks in that space of time. So yeah, really impressive. And there we had this heavy palm muting with the right hand. Like that. So it really does mute the strings, but you still get a little bit of the note. And we had this so there's a little run that he's actually doing there with a hammer on and pull off again. Yeah, and this isn't going to be an instructional video. It's tempting just to go back and find out exactly what that run was and play it note for note, but we would be here all year probably, and you just get the impression that he had such a great sense of humour because of the way that he'd put this into the performance, but it would throw everybody off from just the amount of technical ability he's showing here, because he makes it look like it's really difficult to do, but he's making it look easy to do, if that makes sense in any way, shape or form. Hopefully you know what I mean. But yeah, when you then pick up a guitar and try to play this, you think, yeah, this is just on a totally different level. And I love that face at the end. When he starts to really increase the tempo of that, little run down. It's ridiculously fast. It's probably even faster than that. Getting that, double time rhythm. Another thing that Roy was great at was getting that right hand just at a speed that was, ridiculous. That tempo that you could get to the point where, the frame rate of the cameras doesn't really pick it up. Same thing with the alternate picking. His hand looks like it's going at half the speed than it actually is, because the camera can't capture all of the movements because it's only got 30 frames per second. But doing this all live and doing it tongue-in-cheek with the performance element, as I've mentioned about Roy before, it just shows you when you play guitar the level that this guy was at. And once you throw into the fact that he could sing and was a multi-instrumentalist, it really does push it to another level. Very similar to Glenn Campbell, the way that he was so advanced at playing the guitar, but then had this voice that was just a standalone vocal that you would be quite happy listening to just him sing, but then having the guitar ability was just crazy. Anyway, thank you guys for requesting this video for me to take a look at. As always, keep those suggestions and requests coming in the comment section below. Let me know what you guys think, and if you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!